Welcome, welcome. This is Sunday City Sundays, and I am Roslydian, and it is very late at night in the Mine Colony New Masseque, which is the third of my three Mine Colonies cities, my three cities in 12 and of the 12 cities. And this city was originally created to be a YouTube city. Actually started this on YouTube, streaming this on YouTube, but not streaming it. I started recording it and uploading it to YouTube. So you can see the beginnings of this city in my YouTube videos. But today we are streaming live Sunday City Sundays, and we are going to look at one of the larger families in New Masseque, the Aylmer family. And I'm going to change my view for a moment so that we can look in the City Hall book, and you will see the first Aylmer, who was Josian, right there, and then after her you will see many Aylmer names. She became the matriarch of one of the largest families in New Masseque, all the way down to the end. So we're going to follow her and her family's path right now. Look at the moon is setting. We're going to start with the house that Josie lived in when she arrived. Now, because this was the third city, it was after Children and it was after New Mombasa. And so I had learned my lesson from New Mombasa, and I separated the men from the women in order to get more family names, more adults, so that there would be, more people. So when Josie came in, she came in as an adult, and she stayed with Charity. She went to school, and she stayed in the house with Charity because the men and women were still being separated at that time. And so this is the house that Noah built for his parents Charity and Edmund. And Noah and Edmund did get a chance to live in this house after the restrictions on children were lifted. But for a while, when they were separated from Charity, Charity actually lived with other women, and Josie was one of them. And Noah met Josie because his mother lived in the house with her. Now, some areas of this house have been changed, but there are other areas of this house that are still pretty original. This was recently renovated, and it was recently renovated for Levi and Aurora, who now live in this house. But this was where Josie lived when she first met Noah. And Noah was a builder, a young builder, Charity's son, Charity and Edmund's son, and Josie actually had a crush on him, and Noah liked her, and so they decided to choose each other. But when they decided to choose each other, is it daytime? Yes, it is. When they decided to choose each other, Josie had told him that she had to be honest with him, that she had a daughter, and when the restrictions were lifted, she wanted her daughter to come and live with them. Was that okay? And Noah was fine with that because his own dad, Jerome, what did he did not live with him. He actually lived with Edmund, who was his mother's chosen in this community. But Noah was actually arrived in this community. And so Noah and Josie chose each other, and they actually lived in this house when Philippa, Josie's daughter, came to live here. And when Philippa came to live here, one of the men who lived with Noah and Edmund, Roland, was just becoming a knight when Philippa was a young adult, and he was an equestrian knight. And there used to be, where these two blacksmiths are, this used to be the equestrian knight's tower. There was a knight's tower here, and there were horses here for the knights. And Roland was the first, the very first Marine in New Masseque, and he was in charge of the horses. And Philippa used to come and bring him lunch and just hang out with the horses. She just loved the horses, and so she actually got to spend time with Roland. And Roland was a young man at the time, and Philippa was only a little younger than he was, and they both loved the horses, and they chose each other. Now, when Philippa chose him, she knew that he was a knight and that he would not necessarily come home all the time. So she decided that she was going to live in this boarding house, and Philippa and Roland had owned this boarding house together and raised their kids here, but also had intended for the boarding house to be an actual apartment building that they would then have other people come and live here. And from time to time, other people did, but mostly it became a house for young adult Aylmer kids to live here. So Philippa and Roland chose each other, and they had, and I'm going to have to look for it because their family is complex. They had 3 kids. They had Edmund, Aidan, and Elias. So Philippa had named one of her kids after Noah's father, Edmund, and Edmund, let's see who's the oldest. Edmund is the oldest, so she named her first child after Edmund, and her first child is now the miner who started the mine in New Masseque, and as a matter of fact, there he is right now. But this mine was built for him, and he has been very happy and mining here for many, many, many years. And he now, this stair was changed recently, and that needs to be fixed. Um, he he actually chose a young woman, and the woman that he chose was, nope, I'm not going to be able to fix it with that. Do I have something? Oh, I could have fixed it with that. The woman that he chose was the daughter of the baker, Maya, and he chose Cecily. She was a teacher and is a teacher, and he chose her. She chose him, and and Edmund Jr., or well, Edmund, named after his grandfather, moved in with his chosen Cecily, who was living in her mother's house, living in the house she was raised in. All the other kids were gone, so Maya stayed on. Cecily and Edmund had Mother Maya stay on and live with them. Now, this house hasn't been fixed yet, to take advantage of the fact that Edmund and Cecily can have this bedroom now as a bedroom where they can both sleep together. So right now they are using the bedroom upstairs, this bedroom here, but it very rarely is that the two of them are in bed together, because technically they can't be. But the way the story goes for this world is that he comes home late or she comes home late and stays up late, and then they come up and go to bed. This is Maya's room, and not a lot has been done here since Edmund and Cecily's kids have grown up and moved out of the house. The last one being Kinsley, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Yeah, I would have to look it up. But at this particular time, that is Edmund, who is Philippa's first child. Aiden, Philippa's second child, also became a knight and unfortunately lost his life. Aiden actually was killed. He actually was killed in an accident where he actually drowned. It was after an ordinance was changed that insisted that knights and rangers work all the time, and this caused them to fall asleep in wherever they were, and he unfortunately fell asleep somewhere where where it was not secure, and he actually drowned. This was his tower, his patrol tower. He had the Mid-City Patrol Tower, and no one actually is in this tower anymore. We are at peace in this city, New Masseque, with the lords of the mountains, the lords of the swamp, and the lords of the plains, as well as the lords of the jungle. So we have 4 different royal families of skeletons living around us, and it was very important that we make a peace treaty that was going to last, and we did. So now this patrol tower is just here in case of an emergency. This is where the militia would come and get their weapons and armor to fight off an invasion if such a thing were to happen, if a treaty was broken. So that's what unfortunately happened to Aiden, and Aiden is his memorial tags are in here, and he is one of only 3 people who have 4 people, and his tag is not here. I am actually surprised by that. That is really interesting. I am wrong. I apologize. I am wrong. Aiden is still alive. Aiden went back to school. The fate that I told you about was suffered by Alexander. Alexander Goodrick was the one who died, who drowned. Aiden actually, when the militia was broken up, not the militia, when the military was broken up and the militia became the way the city wanted to be, Roland retired, but he didn't retire right away. He actually was still taking care of the horses that belonged to the military, even though there wasn't a standing army. The horses still existed. And yes, we are at peace with them, and they do come and visit. So Aiden went back to school, and if I am not mistaken, Aiden is still a teacher at the university. He is either a teacher at the university or he is a teacher at the second school. But let's check for a minute. Wow, that's interesting. I totally made a mistake on that. But let's see if Aiden is not here. So that means he is at the equivalent of a high school. But because in the 12 cities, children don't go to school until they're young adults, we actually have a first school, a second school, and university. So I believe that Aiden is in this school, but we can check for just a moment and find out. And let's see. He is not here either. That is so curious. Where is Aiden? You know something? I think I told you the right story. I think I did. I think Aiden's tag just isn't in the... let's just check. Yeah, I told you the right story. That is actually Aiden's story. That he was among the first soldiers Marines when sleeping started, and he actually lost his life. Aiden's tag is not in the city hall, probably because the city hall was restructured long after. It was originally a dark oak city hall, and it was changed to a jungle city hall. And when it was changed, I think that his tag was misplaced, and I wouldn't be surprised if Philippa took his tag because her kid, and has his tag. I think the city will ask Philippa to put his tag in so that he can be honored at the city hall in the memorial chest. So that was actually his life that I told you that he actually died. So Philippa lost one of her sons. The other son of Philippa's is Elias, and Elias wanted to be a farmer. He loved the land back here where he was raised, and he loved going out into this back field back here. Now, this back land belongs to the lords of the plains, and they keep their cattle and horses and sheep all out in this land. And as you can see, there soldiers and zombies, but there's one of the lord's family. That's one of the relatives. That's one of the royalty, and he is accompanied by several soldiers and zombies. Oh, look at that, including a young zombie. And some decorated zombies are out here. Wow. But these are their animals. But because of that, Elias wanted to raise animals of his own, and he started a dairy. And from the very beginning, he wanted it to be an organic dairy, and he wanted the animals to be able to come back and forth between the fields out there and his dairy. But at the time that he built this dairy, there was nothing out here. This was not here. This cattle ranch and this souvenir shop was not here. So he could have his cows just go out into these fields. But now the dairy cows are mostly kept in this wide field here, every once in a while being moved over to the larger cattle ranch if they need to be free ranged. So the morning is coming, and Elias chose Natasha, who is the builder Thomas Adams, who is one of his daughters, his oldest daughter, as a matter of fact. And when Elias, stayed out too late. You stayed out too late. And when there's Natasha, and there is Elias right now. And when Elias chose Natasha, he had this duplex townhome built for them. So Noah actually built it, and so this is where they live, and they've kind of changed where they lived back and forth between who was here, because for a while Elias's mom actually rented the second duplex, but now the very new blacksmith, Cecily, she works here, and she lives in this duplex with Natasha and Elias living in the second. They actually moved into the second one, and which is really interesting because it's showing Cecily, but I'll have to figure that out. I think it's supposed to be that Cecily lives here and Natasha and Elias live here, but we'll check later. And we'll check during the week and see how that is. Natasha started out as a teacher, but she wanted to be closer to Elias. And so when this farm was built by, wait, I'm doing it wrong. Oh, wow. This is so weird. I'm usually pretty good about the people, and I have made some real mistakes. This is not Elias at all. This is Josiah and Natasha living here. And I have made some wild and crazy mistakes in this. And because this is live, I can't take it back like in a recording. If this was a recording, I would have gone, okay, let's start all over again, because I just blew it twice. But this is live TV or live YouTube. And so I will have to say, I apologize. But this is Elias's farm. The story I was telling you was of Josiah, who is named after his grandmother, and I will find him in a moment. Let's see if I can. Yes, who is actually Elias's son. Is Elias's first kid that I was telling you, who is chosen with Natasha. Elias, from the very beginning, wanted to have a farm. And so this huge farm complex was built for Elias. He was the first one to volunteer and be a farmer for the city of New Masseque. So this farm was built for him. It is it is the largest farm complex of all the designs of farms in Minecolonies. And it's absolutely gorgeous. And of course, it had to be like this because it's in the jungle, and the jungle always has this undergrowth. I'll take you someplace where there's nothing built. So it would be really hard clearing, an ocelot. It would be really hard clearing all this land to make fields. So the designers of the jungle builds made the jungle farms up in the air. And that is what Elias got. Now, Mildred, who is chosen with Elias, Mildred loved the farms that that Elias had. I think Mildred loved the farms maybe more than she loved Elias. But she absolutely wanted to be a farmer. This is her farm right here. And Elias wanted to be with her. So they chose each other. And they've been very happy together. And like I said, they have 2 kids. They have Josiah and they have Frederic. And Josiah is the owner of the dairy and cattle ranch with Natasha, and Frederic became an environmentalist and is now only just recently became the owner of the flower shop back here. So it's a very all in the family farm, this is. I'm just going to give her a hoe for a minute so that she can continue working. So this is Mildred's and Elias's farm. And Mildred and Elias raised their kids in this house right here. This is the house Elias built for himself, and Mildred came and lived with him, and then their kids also came. Not They have the traditional furniture and kitchen in here. Eventually, someday, maybe they will have a renovation done. And right now, Mildred and Elias's daughter, Frederique, lives here with her chosen, Landon, and their 3 sons. Their daughter is a delivery person and is already moved out of the house. So the 3 sons are still living here and going to school, and haven't chosen any jobs yet, but are looking at jobs. Frederique works on the flower farm, which is right next to the composter where her chosen Landon works. Mildred and Elias moved out of that house, and they built this Misa design house for themselves. This is the house they built for themselves, and they lived here by themselves after the kids were grown for a lot of years and very much enjoyed this house. As a matter of fact, Mildred was one of the first to have an outdoor kitchen with this Mesa design. So this is her kitchen. And then this is the inside dining room. And then their bedroom upstairs. And then their deck right here. So this was their house for a very long time. And then they decided to move when Victoria and Diego had this stone house built for them. But Mildred and Elias fell in love with the stone house. And why wouldn't they? Look, this is the farm. The farm is made up of stone and jungle. And so when they asked to trade houses, and Victoria and Diego were fine with it because Victoria is a teacher, and so she has the long commute down this road right here to the university. She doesn't mind. And Diego works right here. This is Diego's bakery. So Mildred and Elias moved into this house. And this is their new house. It has not been refurnished yet, and so it still has a lot of the original furnishings that these houses come with, and not much going on upstairs. They did replace the door because they wanted a sliding glass door upstairs. They're going to come home in a minute because it's sunset, and so I'm going to leave. But so that is their house. And then you saw that Josiah, whose life I told you about as if it was Elias's life, but that was actually Elias's son Josiah, who started the dairy. And then when Natasha, his chosen, decided that she didn't like doing flower farming, Josiah actually suggested to her that she run the dairy with him, and he was going to build a cattle ranch for beef. He wanted more cows. And so that is what happened. She took over the dairy, and he runs this cattle ranch. Now, this cattle ranch I really like because it actually is one of the only ranches that actually has a barn for the cows, and that's the reason why um, Josiah chose it for his farm, even though it was made of dark oak. There is a dark oak forest near here, and he was fine with that expense. He actually had enough. He was successful enough that he could have the wood for this farm imported from this dark oak grove over here, this wild grove that is right over here. And so that's where the wood came from for the cattle ranch. And so Josiah and Natasha now work together, which is what Natasha was after, and they have this cattle ranch and the dairy farm. And then Frederic works near where her chosen is the environmental specialist who runs the composter. So that is their set. And then Frederic, let's think about Josiah. I can look at Josiah's kids. Let's look at Josiah's kids first, and let's see who we have for Josiah's kids. Can we find them easily? They are probably listed under Natasha's. Yes. So they had Diego is Natasha's mother and named after Natasha's father, and their other child is Landon. So Landon is actually, and that is most interesting. So Frederic is actually, yeah, that's right. She has actually chosen one of her, either her cousin. She has chosen a cousin or an uncle. She has chosen a cousin. It's more like she has chosen she has chosen a nephew to be with. Frederic was originally with Josiah Cheddar, and then because he went into magical arts and left environmental arts, she chose Landon, and wow, I did not see that. So Frederic chose her brother's son as her chosen. And she has had 4 kids with her brother's son. And she had kids with Josiah Cheddar, but she had 4 more kids with her brother's son, Landon. And Landon they have Landon Jr., Anthony, and Ian, and Paloma, who is the delivery. And wow, I didn't realize that at the time that they chose each other. But she was always sort of a wild child, and yeah, so that is what happened. So that's Frederic, and then Josiah's kids, and that's how we found that, are Whoops, it went away. Don't go away. So Josiah's kids um, are, let's see for a second. Let's go back down to where Josiah's kids, yeah. So Josiah's kids are Victoria, Samuel, and actually Frederick's kids with Josiah Cheddar are Victoria, Samuel, and Mackenzie. So Victoria and Samuel, Sam K, Sam Y, are also, oops, I beg your pardon, are also living in the neighborhood. This is Aylmer family is really big. So Victoria is with Diego, and so she's living very near her mom, who is, who's Frederic, and so they all sort of like living here together. That I do have some others like in New Mombasa that have really close relationships where cousins married or people from different generations of people married. But that one was one that I had overlooked. And but there's no question, Landon Jr. is the reason that she is with Landon. She and Landon were working on an environmental project together, and they obviously had a relationship, and Landon Jr. arrived, and after that Landon chose her, and then they had Paloma and Anthony and Ian. And so they, that's them. And then on the, going on from there, Paloma has now living with David. Paloma is one of the delivery people. And when she first decided, Paloma was really interesting. She was in some ways like Philippa, her grandmother, and she actually loved running all over the city. So Paloma actually lived and was raised in this house right here, but I would find her in the trees over here, having to be rescued from trees over here. And then I found her in the swamp, and I found her in the plains, and she would just be all over the place. And so it was very fitting that she became a delivery person. And this delivery hut was built for Paloma. Actually, it's not really like that. The huts aren't built for them necessarily. They become the person who's perfect for the job. And so when this was built, Paloma was perfect for the job. So these are her flowers out in front of her delivery, and it is in the acacia area. So even though it's a birch design delivery hut, it has acacia pieces in it to mark the fact that it is in the jungle's edge. And she and David was a new delivery person, and this is David's delivery right here, with that door being both doors open. Interesting. And David he had this house built for himself, and he lived here for a long time by himself. And then when he was training Paloma, they liked each other. He invited Paloma to come here and live with him because she was commuting from her family house, and Paloma was like, but when she moved in with him, they actually became a couple, because even though he invited her to live here, I think he was telling her in the beginning that he would put another bed upstairs on he would sleep on the porch upstairs, and he'd put a bed there, but that never happened. So they actually lived in this house until Aiden. There's Aiden. I was right. There's Aiden. Oh my gosh. Okay, you know what? I should just delete this one. What a mess I have made of their lives. There's Aiden. I forgot that Aiden retired from being a teacher after Barbara had Jeremiah, who is Aiden's son. And Aiden decided to join Barbara. There he is. Aiden decided to join Barbara. Oh my gosh. Aiden decided to join Barbara in running the tavern, which is a combination bed and breakfast and restaurant nightclub, that Barbara is the chef for, and Aiden runs the souvenir shop right here and grows flowers, and Jeremiah is their kid. But when he was the original, so this is the real story. He was the original Marine. He followed his father into this service, Roland, and then he got out of the service because he didn't like it. Went back to school, and he was a teacher for a long time until Barbara had Jeremiah. And Barbara wasn't saying, and Aiden wasn't saying anything about Jeremiah for a long time, but Jeremiah lived with his grandmother, Philippa, when he was younger, until Aiden and Barbara felt secure enough to say that they could have a place where Jeremiah could live with them. And so for a while, Jeremiah and Aiden and Barbara lived here in this duplex. It was built specifically for them to be able to live in here. And the reason they did, of course, is because the duplex has the extra bedroom. So Aiden and Barbara were in this room, and Jeremiah, their son, was up here. So that's what a crazy stream this has turned out to be. It really is. I can't believe how much I mixed up their story. But so yeah. And like I said, if this wasn't live, I would probably just go strike that, delete that, and do it, and just go back and tell the story correctly. But yes, Aiden was the first soldier assigned to the Marine assigned to this patrol tower, the city patrol, and his dad was the equestrian knight, so he was a ranger. And then he left the military and went back to teaching. Then he left teaching to open the flower shop, souvenir shop, and that is where Jeremiah and Barbara and he lived together. Then Jeremiah moved out. He wanted to be on his own. He was studying to be a chef, and he wanted to open his own restaurant, and he planned to open a restaurant right here. But his mother was saying, you might not like opening a restaurant. It's a lot of work. You don't know. And he said, yes, I do. I want to do it. So she said, well, then run mine. And so for 6 months, Jeremiah actually ran the tavern, and Barbara was on vacation. And she would stop in, of course, and see how he was doing. And he did such an excellent job that both Aiden and Barbara were very happy to finance him building this little lunch restaurant, because there needed to be another restaurant that was just sort of a place where the workers could come and eat. And this is Jeremiah. So Jeremiah now works here, and he actually lives in this apartment building right now. He does not have it chosen as yet, but there are several young women who find him attractive and interesting and come and eat at his restaurant in an attempt to get his attention as well as to get fed. And so there you go. And wow. And that was pretty wild and crazy. However, if you want to see New Masseque's history and see if I am correct, you can actually go into the YouTube videos that I have of New Masseque, and you can see the story in action that I just told you about the Aylmers. We're going to stop there. That was good. No, that wasn't. Oh, man. But you got to meet most of the family. One of Frederick's kids, Mackenzie, lives with her chosen. She chose one of Maya's sons, John, and they both live here. Mackenzie only chose him just recently. She was living with her daughter's parents, her daughter's father's parents, for a long time and teaching. She's still a teacher, but she is now, I believe, at the university. But she lives with John, and Emily, her daughter, actually lives in these apartments right here. And who is that down there? Oh, it's Isabella. Isabella can get back up. So they are on vacation because the school year is over for them, and they get a chance to decide what they're going to do and to meet other kids and see if they want to choose. And there is Emily right now, and that is one of the younger actually Aylmers, even though she chose the Cheddar name. Also, Ray, Julia's kid, Julia moved in with Reynold, and they specifically moved in It's different from what happened with Mackenzie and John. Mackenzie never said who was Emily's father, and it turned out to be John. And I think it was just one of these things that Mackenzie is the generation after, so two generations, the second generation after John's generation. So she's young in, I don't know, Earth terms, but in what do you do in a city where nobody gets old? So that's why they moved in. And when they moved in together, they hadn't been together for years. Mackenzie was grown when they moved in together. And John gave Mackenzie and Emily a lot of space to sort of ease into being a family. And then finally they relaxed. Emily accepted him first, and when she moved out, Mackenzie finally relaxed, and they are a happy couple right now. Diego noticed that Reynolds didn't have anybody and also had this big house out here. And Diego wanted to do something about, another ocelot. Oh, neat. So cool. And wanted to do something about the fact that his daughter, his and Victoria's daughter Julia, had just lost her chosen. He was killed in a freak accident. He was actually poisoned to death by a cactus growing in his farm. He actually died from a cactus in the city, a cactus that he was growing, and that's why I call it a freak accident. But Julia was devastated. She went home. She took Ray, who was a young adult, home to her parents, and they lived in her parents' house for a while. And so Diego was trying to find some situation for her, since she did not seem to want to get an apartment or a house for herself and Ray. And so he suggested to Reynolds to ask Julia and Ray to move in, with Julia being the housekeeper for the house. And she agreed. She agreed. And I think she agreed because Reynolds promised her, let me go to sleep so I can show you the house. Here we go. They'll get up and go to work. So Reynolds promised her and Ray their own rooms, and that he would sleep in the bedroom downstairs. He would sleep here, and that they could have the entire upstairs to themselves. So he even modified this bedroom here, right here, to give, and there's Julia. She's making Reynolds' bed. Not Reynolds' bed, Ray's bed. This is their bathroom in the upstairs of this house. And then Julia sleeps in this room right here. However, I believe that, let me see if Ray has moved out. Ray is still here, so Ray is still living here, and her son is still living here with them for right now. He was in school, and now he is looking for work. So Julia is a good Rick, But Ray's father was an Aylmer, and Ray chose the Aylmer name. So he and Emily are the two youngest of the Aylmer kids. And that is pretty close to all of the Aylmers, if I am not mistaken. But it's a pretty big family. Made even larger by my mistakes. Oh my goodness. There are other kids that belong to other sections of the family. There's Ray right now, and Kinsley is who owns this restaurant here. And let me find Kinsley's parents. Kinsley is so Victoria is an Aylmer, and Victoria's daughter Julia, who we were talking about. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to find Kinsley's parents very quickly. Nope, not going to be able to do it. But Kinsley is also an Aylmer, and we have a couple other Aylmers floating around, a couple of boys. Kinsley has brothers who are still living in the apartments over here, as well as Sam Y, who now has a kid, Sam K, and those Aylmers are living here. As a matter of fact, Sam Y actually took over this boarding house when Philippa moved with Raymond, when he was a baby, moved with Raymond to the townhome back here. And when Raymond grew up, both Philippa and Roland retired from their respective jobs. Roland stopped. The militia finally said that they weren't going to use horses. The city council decided that they weren't going to have military horses. So Roland took the horses and to start a farm, the horses that were there at the time, and the donkeys. And this is his farm with Philippa. And Philippa and he have chickens and sheep and horses and donkeys and this one cow. And there is Philippa right now. And so this is where they work. And let's see for a minute. I wanted to see. Yes, and Cecily is also one of the children, and she just recently became the blacksmith. And I will have to tell this story again somewhere down the road, and maybe I will get it more straight. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed the wild and crazy story that I just told that was all mixed up, but Aiden is still alive. What happened was when the city council decided that while we still had Marines, a standing army, the city council decided to call a Marine back to be city patrol, and Aiden didn't want the job. He was happy teaching at the time. And so Maya's son took the job, and he is the one who actually was killed. But we will talk about the Goodricks another time, because I'm going to go through all the families of all the cities. So you might hear some of the stories again, because we do have some overlapping families. We do indeed. But that it is it for the 12 cities. There's Mackenzie. For the 12 cities, Omo, New Mombasa, and New Masseque, and this is Sunday City Sundays. If you stay tuned, I will do my first 15 city, and that is New Musalangu. And it will be my last Sunday City Sunday for today. And so I'm going to come back to that in just a little bit. But I hope you enjoy the wild and crazy ride of New Masseque, and enjoy watching all the other gamers. And bye for now. Bye for now.